Let's do this.
The whole reason I'm doing these storytime videos is because I feel like I need to drink while I do them, because these are very frustrating stories. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Britt, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you probably should, because I talk about geeky things. But sometimes I like to tell the stories about the reasons why I drink. So today I thought I'd tell you guys a story about the time I got kicked out of college. So this was my second round with college. I'm currently in my third round right now. So if you guys want to hear the first round, or if you guys not here, because I don't think I've ever talked about it in a video, but I did write a blog not too long ago, and I'll link that below. It's on my website, but I did write a blog kind of about my journey, and I did touch on this story a little bit. You don't really need to know the full story beforehand. All you have to know is that I did drop out of my first round of college. So that's all you really need to know for this particular story. I took some time off and ended up getting into retail, and then at one point during my time in retail, I decided that it was just time for me to do something else. And so I decided to go back to school. This particular school that I decided to go back to was one of those schools that are specifically meant for adults, working adults, usually either parents, stay-at-home parents, or people who have a job and just don't have time to actually commit all of their time to school like you would with a university or a community college, that kind of thing. I'm not gonna say the name of the school just because I don't think it's necessary to know. All you have to know, it's one of those like online accelerated programs. It's a diploma mill is what it is. So it's just a full-on just diploma mill. When I first thought about going to this school, I was actually still in college in St. Cloud. I was still living in St. Cloud, still going to school in St. Cloud. But what I had decided was I thought maybe it would be good to not only have my film studies major, but also, or my film studies bachelor's degree, but also to have a business degree. And I was thinking, hey, instead of just double majoring at St. Cloud State, why don't I just go to this school? I had looked into it at that point, kind of. I'd never visited it, but they did have a campus in St. Cloud. They also have a campus here in Bloomington. But then my sister talked me out of that. She was like, if you're gonna do it, just double major. It's gonna be too complicated for you to be in two different schools at one time. But what kind of got me interested in it was the guy that I was seeing at the time was taking classes in St. Cloud State, but he was also taking classes at another school as well. And so that was kind of what I was thinking, was that would be kind of interesting to do that. But my sister kind of talked me out of that, which I'm glad she did, because I ended up not graduating anyway, which is why I'm back in school now. So around 2013, I decided that I wanted to do something that would definitely get me a job, like a big girl job. And so I decided that I was gonna go to this school. It's the accelerated program, do it at the pace that I needed to, but it's still accelerated, so it's not, you still can graduate earlier if you put the work in, and it can be completely done online. So I decided that I was just going to go to the school, get a business degree, and so my associate's degree would have been in entrepreneurship, and my bachelor's degree would have been with online marketing. And those two degrees would have gotten me great jobs outside of school, and I had every intention of doing it. But at first I needed to make sure that it worked for me. And like I told you before, these guys are diploma mills. I'm not saying that these are bad schools. This one in particular is because it did lose its accreditation, which is part of the reason why this ended up being just a mess of a problem. Because part of the reason I was also going back to school was putting my loans into deferment. I might need more than one glass tonight. I went just for a meeting, just to see if it was going to be a good fit for me to be able to do it. And because these are diploma mills, they are not like academic advisors, which that's their labeling. They are salespeople. And while I don't usually fall for sales gimmicks, because I've worked in retail for so long and I've been taught all the different sales gimmicks, I know all the ins and outs of that kind of thing, I usually these days don't fall for it, but I did fall for this one in particular. And so it went from being a meeting to see if this worked to me being scheduled for classes. It was not okay, you guys. I was registered for classes before I left. It was a lot. It was a lot. So I was thinking this was gonna be just a really great thing. Matter of fact, I was so excited about it and so proud of myself. The very first thing I did when I left the building was I called my grandma. Because one of the things that my grandma always wanted was for me to go back to school and finish my degree. And I knew that she'd be really, really proud of me for taking the initiative to just do it. And she was very proud of me in that moment. And then she was also understanding when everything fell apart. And this went on for about a year, not the schooling. The schooling only went on for 2 weeks. I was kicked out within 2 weeks of school, but the battle went on for a little bit longer than that. So anyway, the one great thing about this was that your books were paid for through your tuition. So they just added a certain number onto your tuition and you didn't have to worry about buying books. They would just send them to you. So my first round of classes, I don't remember everything that I took. I think I took like ethics of business. I took accounting because that's part of the story when I started to realize that this was a bad situation that I was in. Let's back up real quick. So one of the things they obviously needed was my transcripts. They needed to see what could possibly be transferred over from both Bemidji, which is where I spent my freshman year of college, and St. Cloud State, which is where I spent the rest of my time in college. And so they wanted to do that. Now, mind you, with the school that I'm at right now, it's part of the MNSCU program, which is the same program that Bemidji and St. Cloud are both a part of, and it's just Minnesota State Colleges and Universities, Min State, so MN State Colleges and Universities, so MNSCU. And you can tell when it's the name of the town and then State University, or like there's Metropolitan State University, that kind of thing. So I was at Bemidji State University, which was in Bemidji, Minnesota. I was in St. Cloud State University, which is in the city of St. Cloud, Minnesota. So because it wasn't part of the MNSCU program, it's even just a private school. It's, almost like a trade school, but not really, because trade schools don't take you for all you're worth. Oh, Lord. So getting your transcripts, it costs money to do that. If it were with the MNSCU system, it wouldn't cost any money. So basically when I started going to the school that I'm at right now, they simply just ran the search and found me in there and were able just to grab my transcripts and see them. Like, it doesn't cost any money to transfer your transcripts within the MNSCU system. If I went to the University of Minnesota, however, it would end up costing money because that's not part of the MNSCU system. We had to do that. That was also part of that same day where I registered for classes, because obviously we had to see the transcripts, but for some reason she didn't need that for me to register for classes, because I suppose I just was able to kind of indicate what I wouldn't have taken, which wouldn't have been, I don't think I took any business classes when I was in school, except for like maybe film business, but other than that, I don't think I took any kind of business course. Which is weird because my declared minor at Bemidji was a business minor, which I did not declare in St. Cloud, but I didn't take any business classes. So we got the transcripts, we had them being sent over. Bemidji's didn't cost anything, but St. Cloud's did, which is strange because, I mean, I get it because Bemidji is a much smaller town than St. Cloud, much smaller. It's still bigger than the town that I graduated from. It was kind of good because I graduated from Pequot Lakes University, Pequot Lakes High School, which that town, like, I lived in Breezy Point, then I moved to Baxter, but I went to school in Pequot, and they're all roughly about the same size. Breezy's the smallest, Pequot's the middle, and then Baxter would have been the biggest out of them. And then I moved to Bemidji, which was a little bit bigger, and then I moved to St. Cloud, which was quite a bit bigger, but still not like culture shock, because by the time I moved to Bloomington, which I guess is now the 5th largest city in the state, I guess Duluth did surpass Bloomington at some point, which, dang it, I didn't want them to surpass us. I didn't get such a culture shock moving from small town me to here, which would have been a huge culture shock for me. I kind of like slowly moved up. Anyway, so Bemidji's didn't cost anything, which I thought was strange because it's still part of the MNSCU system, and I figured MNSCU would just kind of have kind of the same theme running throughout their whole system, but they didn't. But St. Cloud's cost me $20. So I paid $20. They took $20, and the next thing I hear is that St. Cloud didn't actually send the transcript. And it turns out we did it wrong. And so I paid another $20. So I don't understand how I would have done it wrong. They still would have taken the money but not sent the transcript. I still don't understand how that worked out. But for some reason they took $20 and didn't send the transcript. And then I had to pay another $20. And then we're gonna get there. My suspicion is that we used their program, and so this school took my money twice. Anyway, so Bemidji's didn't cost anything, and I was told multiple times that they had Bemidji's transcripts. I went to this opening day orientation. One of the big things they were pushing was, we need your transcripts. If you do not have your transcripts, you need to make sure that we get them. And so I went up to the lady, she was there. I went up to the lady, I think her name was Tammy. And I went up to the lady, maybe it was Monica, I don't know. Those are the two names that stick in my head. So anyway, I walked up to the lady and I was like, you have Bemidji's and St. Cloud's now? And she goes, well, I know we do have Bemidji's, but St. Cloud's we know is en route, so we're good, we're fine. And I was like, great, that's all I need to know. I go about my business, and so I take this, so let's move forward to the accounting course. This was where I started realizing as to why they lost their accreditation. So it was an online course, and I had these like video lectures that I had to do, and with accounting it was basically just screenshots, like OBS Studio or whatever, screenshots of like, you know, Excel and how Excel works and everything like that. And I love Excel, so I love learning all kinds of new things about Excel, and that was actually, I think, where my obsession with Excel started, was from that class, which was the only good thing that came out of that. Anyway, she was one of those teachers, sorry, I almost swallowed my wine wrong. She was one of those teachers that she goes, oh, I made a mistake, oh well, whoops. And so she didn't like re-record or anything like that. She just simply goes, so this particular spreadsheet won't match and won't be correct, but you get the idea. She actually said that. Like, I even showed my mom. I called my mom, and she came over, and I had her watch it. She's like, what? It wasn't good. So at the same time, my mom and I were trying to put my student loans into deferment. So we call Nelnet, which has my largest. I had 3 student loans at the time. I have now finished one of them, and I'm almost done with another, but then I have my big one. And so we called my big one, because that one for sure we needed to have go into deferment, because that is the one that has the bulk of my student loans. And I think it's also the one that is going to that the loans are going to this time as well. So I think that one's just going to increase. It's great. It's fine. It's fine, you guys. I'm just setting myself further into debt. And college is more expensive now than it was 10 years ago when I was left before. I feel bad for anybody graduating high school right now. So we're on the website, and we're like looking through their list of like to put the loan into deferment. We're looking through the list, and we can't find this school anywhere on the list. So we actually ended up calling this place, and we're like, hey, so we can't find da-da-da anywhere on your list. Oh, right. That's because we don't consider it a real school, because it's lost its accreditation. And I went, what? It says it's accredited on the commercial. And the lady goes, I know. They are lying. They lost their accreditation about a year ago. And I was like, what? No, I can't have a degree from an unaccredited school. This is not good. This is not good, which ended up being a blessing in disguise, because the kicker for this story, I did my homework on Sunday nights. That's just when I sat down and I did my homework. I didn't work, and my boss allowed me to not work Sunday nights, specifically because she knew that that was the day that I just kind of like sat down, well, Sunday in general, but Sunday night specifically, where I sat down and did all of my homework and got it all turned in one time. I think it was due Sunday night at midnight or something like that. I was on there one Sunday, and I'm like, I can't log in. Why can't I log in? This is not good. What is going on? And it says that I don't have clearance to log in. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna tell my professors that I can't figure out how to log in. This is not good. So the next day, when I'm at work, I get a phone call, and mind you, I don't have my phone on me. When I worked for Caribou, I didn't have my phone on me. Caribou Coffee, a little coffee chain here in Minnesota. It used to be nationwide, but then it got bought out, and now it's replaced by Pete's Coffee pretty much everywhere else. I am already almost out of wine. This story is so irritating. So I get a phone call. So after work, I check my voicemail, and I'm standing there, and I like nearly have a panic attack while I'm still standing in the store. And one of my coworkers comes up to me. She goes, what's wrong? And I said, apparently this school didn't get either of my transcripts. And she goes, what? And I said, right, when I was told that they had Bemidji's and St. Cloud's was en route. And she's like, they lied to you. And I'm like, they lied to me. This is not okay. I was so angry. I was so upset. So he's like, call me back as soon as you can so we can get this worked out. So I call him back pretty much right after that conversation. It was maybe an hour after he had called. He didn't answer, so I left him a message. He didn't call back for a while. And he didn't call back until after all of my classes had already been canceled on me, and my financial aid was canceled and everything. So I was literally kicked out of school because you have to log in within 2 weeks. So if you don't log in within 2 weeks, you're automatically dropped out of the class. Just automatically you're dropped. You are no longer part of the class. I was so angry, and he did not call me in time. He didn't call me back in time, and I called him, left messages, and he did not call me back. So he finally calls me back. He's like, well, I hope everything got, and again, I didn't answer the phone because I was at work. He goes, I hope you got everything figured out. I hope everything's cool. Bye. Time goes on, and I get a phone call from this school, and they say, oh, by the way, you still owe us $3,000. And I said, well, for what? And they said, because you were enrolled in our classes and we had to cancel your financial aid because you didn't log in time. And I said, okay, except for here's the story. And I told them the story, and they're like, well, you still owe us $3,000. I'm like, for 2 weeks? Hell no. Hell no. I don't owe you anything for 2 weeks. Like, that's not okay. That's not okay. And so they're like, no, like, you owe us $3,000. And this conversation continued to happen for about a year. They kept calling me every couple months being like, so you still owe us $3,000. I'm like, no, I don't. And they call us till finally one day I sat down with somebody and I told them the whole story. And they're like, okay, well, can you prove that? I don't have access to my email account anymore. So if you want to somehow scrounge that up and look, and go ahead and do that. He's like, well, you know what? Actually, we do have the ability to do that. So I think I'm gonna just look through your old email and see if we can figure it out. I never heard from them again, because there was an email in there where the lady stated, we have your Bemidji transcripts and soon we will have St. Cloud States. So I never heard from them again. It was so frustrating. And the final day I talked to them was kind of the worst. Just because I had my niece and my nephew, my youngest niece and my nephew over. And so I like snuck into my parents' bedroom and I like was screaming at them, letting this guy have it. Because I was just done. At this point it was harassment. And because I was like, I'm not gonna pay for 2 weeks of classes for $3,000. You guys are the ones that effed up. You guys are the ones that dropped me out of my classes. I did my due diligence and tried to get a hold of this guy. He did not answer the phone. Y'all lied to me about whether or not you had my transcripts. It was just bad. It was bad. It was a bad situation. I never heard from them again. To this day, like if somebody says, I'm thinking about going to this school, I'm like, just don't. Like, go to any other one of those degree mill schools. Do not go to this one. And like I said, I don't want to say the name of this company because I don't want to publicly disgrace this particular company. There's only going to be one company or two companies that I will talk specifically about in these videos going forward, and that's just because it's already well known that I worked for these companies, and so because of the story, it's impossible for me to not say the name because it's already been made public, essentially. So anyway, this is easy for me to not state publicly. So that's pretty much it. I'm out of wine. I gotta go get some more. So thank you guys for sitting through this video, and if you guys want to hear more of these crazy stories about the reasons why I drink, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to help out this channel financially if you can. I would greatly appreciate it. Links to my coffee and my Patreon are below, as well as where you guys can find me on other places on the internet. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know that you enjoy these videos. Leave me a comment below about some of the crazy stories you guys have about school, about college, about university, whatever you have. And I will see you guys all next week. Bye, everyone.